How are we doing tonight? Are you guys excited?
Yeah.
Because I'm excited. So tonight, first of all, what's our theme for the year? You guys are so good at that. You're getting really good. I'm really excited because tonight we're going to talk about breaking the mold. And this is probably a talk that you've heard tons of times. You've heard it both at church and you've probably heard it at school as well, that you need to live differently than everyone else, that you need to have a higher standard. And so I think we're going to do a different look at that tonight. Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Perfect. So I'm going to have the lovely Marge Carpenter come up. And I also need a student volunteer. Macy. Here's what I need from you guys. Heavy crowd participation, because I'm going to ask you guys to give some words that you would use to describe your generation as teenagers. Lazy, okay. All right, we're starting off with lazy. Okay, I like it. I'm not going to take the worst. Entitled, Starbucks. Okay. Technologically advanced, a good one. I like it. You can say nice things about your generation. That is also welcome. Just put tech savvy.
Okay, there we go.
All right. Yeah.
The rotten apple that fell from the tree?
No, not quite.
We're not. What?
Come on, some words to describe your generation.
Open-minded.
Open-minded, yes. It's a good one. Ignorant. Okay.
Some of us are knowledgeable.
See some contrast there? Yeah. Selfish. How about some good words? How about words that we... Yeah. Outgoing. Okay. Yeah, sure. Do what you want. Yeah. Leaders. Okay, there are some leaders in this generation. Greedy. Okay. Wow. This is, man. Yeah. Beautiful. All right. So, go ahead and rip that page off, Marge. After all that work, just rip it. But we want to keep it intact because Macy's going to hold on to it. Wow. And I need another volunteer. Evan Gardner, get up here. All right. Yeah, just give it to Macy. Macy, you're going to hold that like this. Got that? All right. Here's the deal. Macy, you are your guys' perception of teenagers. Okay? Adult leaders, it's your turn. You get to say, and I want you to be honest, how do you view this generation? Give me some words to describe this generation in this room. Yeah. Smart. All right, keep going, adult leaders. Techie. What? Older than their years. Older, yeah.
They have never visited a high school.
Okay, keep going. Confused. Adult leaders, come on, you can say what... You're describing this generation in this room. Not necessarily all the students in this room. This is reflecting their whole generation. Yep. Ed. Media-based. Just say it, you can shout it out. Sensitive. What? Connected. You can be honest. It's okay. They'll still like you, maybe. Busy. What? Multitasking. All right, I think that's a pretty good list. So go ahead, you can rip that one off, Marge. Everyone give Marge a big round of applause for her wonderful. That is it. And so Evan here is going to represent, I would say, the next generation's view of this generation, of you guys. That it's their perception of your generation. And so we're looking at what does the typical teenager look like. And so if you notice, I didn't think there were any words that, I mean, there were some similarities, but for the most part, these are kind of separate lists. Would you guys agree? There's a lot of different words. There's not so many words that cross over. that there are lots of a different perspective, you can say, on your generation. But then the question stands, what is the reality? Which one of these are true? Is that something you'd want to know?
Yeah.
Well, can I tell you, I think both are true. And I thought it was really interesting, this is actually not how I had it planned, that you guys actually put more negative words on your list than your adult leaders did.
And that makes me so sad.
Absolutely.
It really does, because this generation doesn't realize how good they are.
Absolutely. That your perception, and that surprised me. I thought it would be kind of the opposite. And I'm really excited that it is actually kind of opposite, because what we're talking about today talks about both ways. That our perception defines our reality. And so, are you guys familiar with this?
Oh, great.
So who doesn't know what this is? Okay, everyone. All right, here we go. Everyone knows the dress.
Yes.
And so the dress, there was a debate about the dress that is it white and gold or is it black and blue? Well, it is actually a black and blue dress. That's the fibers. Sorry if I ruined the white and gold camp. But it is actually a blue and black dress. But people were saying that no, I only see white and gold. And so what's cool about this is that you could basically say that that was the reality. That if you wore it like a blue dress and you saw it like a blue dress, it was a blue dress. But if you saw it as a white dress, it would be a white dress. That perception would say that those are both reality. And so tonight, I want to put this out there, that perception determines your reality. The way you think determines how you live. That the way you see yourself determines how you live. The way other people see you determine how they treat you. And so tonight as we talk about this, as we talk about breaking the mold, you're probably wondering, what does this have to do with one another? Well, that's just it. In order to break the mold, we have to change the general perception. That in order to break the mold, to become greater than what we think we can be, we have to break the general perception. And so those are the perceptions that others put on you, that your peers put on you, but also that adults put on you, the next generation puts on you. And tonight I want to talk about two perceptions that I think teenagers often get placed in. And sometimes rightfully so, and sometimes wrongfully so. And I want to talk about how we can turn these perceptions into good things. And if we do so, then we'll become better for it. Are you okay with that? Are you good with that tonight? Perfect. So, who has been on a trip with Colonial Woods before? The youth group before? Who's been on a trip before? Okay. Who can tell me the one announcement, the one kind of announcement that Dan always gives? Purple, right? Purple. You've heard that? Who's heard that more than 10 times? Wow, so many of you. It's really interesting because I think every youth group has that. In my youth group, this is my youth pastor, by the way. It's the creepiest picture I could find of him. I took that myself. I'm really proud of that. But this is my youth pastor in my high school and actually through middle school. So he was there the entire time I was there. And he is fantastic. An amazing role model in my life. And his big announcement, his big speech, every time we went on a trip, he had 3 rules. One of them was to be flexible. Because if you've ever been on a trip, things don't always go as planned. So you have to be flexible. But the other 2 rules he tied to a verse, to a passage. And that passage was 2 Philippians 2, 14 through 15. We're going to get there. So if you guys have your Bibles, you can open up to that. That would be great. And so this was kind of the verse that he would always have his first 2 rules founded in. It says, "Do everything without grumbling and arguing, so that you may become blameless and pure, children of God without fault in a warped and crooked generation. Then you will shine among them like stars in the sky." So the 2 perceptions that we're talking about tonight were his 2 rules. Don't grumble, or he would say complain, don't complain, and don't argue. And then we're going to have a great trip. And if you've ever been on a long trip, you know that those 2 things come out pretty quickly from some people. Would you agree? Anyone that's been on a long trip before? that we start to really get to see how people act on trips like that they'll start complaining pretty quickly and they'll start arguing. And so I'm going to look at this first perspective that I think teenagers often get accused with, which is complaining. And so if I asked a lot of the adults, probably not here because they want to be cool, but if I asked them, what is one of the things that bothers you most about teenagers, they would probably put this pretty high on their list. Like if we were playing Family Feud, and the question was things that annoy you about teenagers, this would be like the number one answer and would get you lots of points. That the complaining is something that has kind of entered your generation, and my generation as well. So it's kind of weird. I'm kind of in this middle ground tonight, and I don't want you to think that I'm talking down because I totally get it. And in ways I relate with you guys, but also in ways I relate with adults. So in this middle ground, I can see it in my generation, but I definitely see it in your generation. And when we talk about complaining, if you're really good at complaining, you start your own YouTube channel. Have you noticed that? Like, try to watch like a YouTube channel or like a regular YouTube person, and they're really good at complaining. It's like they literally make a job out of complaining. And I think what has made complaining such a big, overarching thing in your lives has been social media in my life. That social media has given us the opportunity to say whatever we want, about whatever we want, and there's really not a whole lot of in-face consequences. Yeah, some people online may get angry with us, but that's nothing compared to face-to-face. That's nothing compared to getting scolded. That on social media, for the most part, we can complain about whatever we want, whether it is school or home or whatever, what celebrity did what, that we can complain about just about anything on social media. Now, here's the deal. If I asked you, how many of your parents like when you complain? Anybody? Not very many of you. Okay, 0 of you. Who has ever been told that you complain too much by your parents? Has anyone heard that before? Okay. See, one of the big things, and I think I'm speaking for parents rightfully here, that the complaining can come across as being ungrateful. Right? Parents in the room, would you agree with that? That sometimes when you hear your kid complaining, they come off as ungrateful. Now, here's the deal. I understand you guys. I get it. That when you complain, your intent isn't just to complain for the heck of it. That you see something that could be better. Right? Is that why we typically complain? Is that we see something that's broken or isn't as good as it could be, and we state it out loud. That's the mindset, right? That when we complain, we want to say, okay, this could be better. But the way we say it is kind of in a negative tone. That a lot of times when we complain, we just say, this is wrong. I hate school. Who's ever complained about a teacher before? Yeah, lots of us. Okay. And so we've all done it. We've all complained. And so here's what I think kind of the first thing that we should do if we want to break the mold. I think we need to switch from complaining to suggesting. And without reading those points on there, what do you think the difference is between suggesting things and complaining about things? Yeah. Meredith. Suggestions are positive. Thank you. They're welcome and they have solutions. Wonderful. You guys are really good at literacy.
They're happy. Luckily,
They're happy. So suggestions, like we heard, are positive, whereas complaints are typically negative. Complaints are typically, this is bad, this is wrong, this is broken, this could be different, this could be better. Where suggestions are saying, this could be better, upside. This could be better, so let's make them better. Suggestions are also welcomed. So a lot of times, complaints typically aren't welcome. There are certain times when complaints are welcome. But a lot of times when we complain, people aren't asking, hey, will you complain for me? Do you know many people that say, hey, just give me I'd love if you could just complain about home. Just go ahead, complain. No, but suggestions are often welcome. Have you ever seen suggestion boxes before, like at restaurants or... Yeah, that you put your suggestions. People want your suggestions because they want to be better. And here's the big key with suggestions is that they have solutions. That suggestions give a way to be better. Complaints don't. Complaints aren't, oh, this would be way better if we did this. Complaints are, this could be better. They're kind of half done. And so when we think about complaints and suggestions, here's what I'm thinking. Back to the teacher. Complaints, okay, so complaining tears down while suggesting builds up. Thank you. And so when we see complaining, it tears down. That it tears down whatever the system is. It says, this is bad, this is wrong. While suggestion says, no, this is good and we want to make it better. And so, who's ever had a teacher they didn't like? Okay, who's ever complained about a teacher they didn't like? Okay, who has ever gone to a teacher and told them a suggestion for how they should teach? Well, wait, a lot of you just raised your hand about the complaining thing, but not very many of you said that you've gone to a teacher and said, hey, let me help you. This would be a better way, I think, for myself as a learner to do this. Now, I'm not saying you should go in there like, I know what I'm talking about, but I think that teachers would appreciate that if you went in and you said, hey, I'm struggling to get this. Can we think of a way that you could help me learn? Can we talk about a way? Now, you're probably thinking of like your least favorite teacher is probably a jerk, but I would say most teachers are willing to help you learn. The same is true with parents. That what would happen if when your parents, I don't know, if they fix food for you and you, I don't know, what do you hate? What's a food you hate? Beans, broccoli, spaghetti. Who hates spaghetti? Weird. Yeah. All right. So how would your parents respond better to this? Would they rather you say, ooh, I hate spaghetti, or they say, you know, Mom, I'm not really feeling spaghetti tonight. What if we did spaghetti next week and then you just kept pushing it back? Like, that's the strategy. You don't want to be direct. You don't want to say like, hey, Mom, let's never do spaghetti. You just want to be like, hey, next week. And then next week will never come if you're smart enough about it, right? You just keep swapping out the things you like. And so that's the thing, that to change the perception is to offer solutions. There's a generation, I think you guys have some awesome ideas. And I think you're going to change the world. But I don't think you're going to change the world by complaining. Or at least you won't change it in the way that we want to see the world changed. That to truly change the world, you have to offer solutions. All right, here's the second perception, and it's arguing. Who's ever argued with their parents? Look at that. Look at the honesty. I love it. What are some of the things that you've argued with your parents about? School. What about school? Grades. You've argued about grades before. Cell phones. What? I thought you said perfumes. And I'm like, that's a very interesting thing to argue about. Okay? Curfews. What? Being busy. Being allowed to go somewhere. Chores. Maybe who drives?
Yeah.
Who does not own their own car and drives? Okay, some of us borrowing the car. That was a big one for me in high school. That we argue. That we get in these arguments. And who would say that their parents like it when you argue? Not very many of you. Maybe a couple. Your parents love arguments. Good. But here's the deal. That this generation, you guys have been kind of seen as an argumentative generation. That you know you're right. That you think you're so right, and you have to tell everyone about it. And you have to make sure they know that you're right. And so who's ever had to teach someone about technology? And who has taught someone about technology that didn't get it? And did that end up well for you? No, probably not. That you probably spent most of the time arguing. And have you ever had to defend your generation? You guys you spend too much time on the internet. Have you ever heard that before? Yes. That we spend so much time trying to prove to people why we're right. And I would like to say that where we need to move from, instead of arguing, is this. We need to move from arguing to discussion. Go ahead, read the points to me. What are some things that are good about discussion?
It doesn't assume a side is right.
Okay, it does. So it doesn't assume that one side is right. When you're having a discussion with someone, there isn't an assumption that one of the sides is right. Okay, what's the next one?
And I feel like they don't attack.
You feel like they don't. Good. I love your original idea. Okay, so typically in discussions, you're not about attacking the other person. Now in arguments, that's what you're about. That you want to win and you want to attack the other viewpoint. You want to attack the other side and you just want to make them lose. That's what you want to do in an argument. But in a discussion, you're not attacking because what are you reaching? What's the last one? You're seeking understanding. That in a discussion, the purpose of a discussion is to understand. And here's the big difference, is that arguing seeks to be right. That's what you're looking for when you're in an argument. That when you're in an argument, there's going to be a winner and a loser, hopefully. That's the plan. That one of you will be right. But when you are in a discussion, when you're discussing something, you're seeking understanding. And so, I'm going to ask you the difference here. What is the difference between these two? I'm going to say the exact same phrase in different tones, and you tell me which one is the argument and which one is the discussion, okay? Why can't I go to my friend's house? Versus, hey, Mom, why can't I go to my friend's house? Okay, what's the first one? Okay, it sounds a little more. Why would you say, like, I just said the same thing. Like,
It's aggressive.
Okay, it's aggressive. What else?
The tone.
The tone. What about the tone?
It sounds like
It's demanding.
One sounds like it's arguing, and the other one sounds like they want to discuss.
Yeah, good, thank you. Okay, what about the second one? Why did that sound like discussion? Okay. It's more of a discussion. Great, yeah. It's calm, okay.
Calm, cool, and collected.
It's calm, cool, and collected.
Cucumber.
In the first one, didn't it sound like I was going to say, hey, Mom, why can't I go to my friend's house? And I'm going to tell you why I should. Didn't that feel like that was going to be like the next sentence out of my mouth? Why can't I go to my friend's house? I think I should be able to. But in the second one, that didn't sound like what I was about to say. It sounded like, hey, Mom, why can't I go to my friend's house? I want to know, so in case I can change your mind, but I really just want to know. Right? That I really just want to seek to understand. See, arguing is kind of like walking into a room with a loaded gun. Who's ever heard of that phrase before? Walking into a room with a loaded gun. So the idea there is that when you walk into a room with a loaded gun, that you have the intent to shoot someone. That you have the intent in your argument to win. That your goal is to win and that person is going to lose when you get into an argument. And that, I'm guessing, is why a lot of times when you disagree with your parents, I'm guessing that's a lot of the times why you disagree. Is because someone walked in the room with a loaded gun. Because someone said, I'm going to win. I am right. I don't want to hear what the other side says, that I'm going to win. Whereas discussion, I think, it usually turns out much better. And I think here are some helpful phrases for you guys when we're looking to understand, when we're looking to discuss. Help me understand this. Now, these are going to sound a little awkward, but when you start using them, your parents, their jaws might drop. They'll be like, what? What did you just say? So help me understand. Hey, Mom, help me understand this decision. Help me understand this. Or the teacher, help me understand why I got an F on that assignment. Help me understand, okay? Or you can even say, okay, from my perspective, from the way I see things, this is how I kind of view things. Or another one is there something I'm not thinking about, that I'm not taking into account? Is there something I don't see? Help me see what I don't see. So these are some helpful phrases that might get you out of an argument and might get you into a discussion, because in order to change the perception, we need to seek to understand. And so we're going to go back to the last half of this verse. When it says, what happens when we don't argue and when we don't complain? What happens? Do anyone else remember the rest of the verse? Yeah.
Something about being a star among stars that's shining brighter than the others.
Absolutely. What's that a picture of? Anyone? I guess. The sun. Yes. That is a very particular star. That is the star that's keeping you alive right now. And that star is 96,920,000,000, whatever the correct notation is for that, miles away. That is a really far away, and it is bright and keeping you alive. That it is heating the earth and it is giving sunlight to the earth. That it is giving life to the earth. And think about it. If it is true that when we don't argue and when we don't complain, if we shine bright as stars in the universe, we're going to be pretty noticeable, right? That people are going to take notice of us. It's kind of hard to hide a star. And my hope for you guys, that as we move from arguing, I wish I would have told you guys to sit down. But this is a nice seat, right? You get to hear me nice and close. That when you move from arguing to discussing, and move from complaining to suggesting, that you'll shine bright, that people will notice. Adults will notice, right? Am I right, adults? If you see a teenager who's not arguing and complaining, but instead they're discussing and they're having and they're asking to be clear on things, then you'll notice them. Then you'll see them, that they will shine bright, that they will stick out, that among teenagers they will be shining stars. And that's my hope for you guys, that you break the mold that way. That in everything that you do, that you don't argue and that you don't complain. And so when we change the perception, we can break the mold. And so I'm going to go ahead and pray for us right now. And then you guys are dismissed to small groups. Jesus, I'm so thankful for you and what you've done for us, for the life that you gave for us on the cross, and that we could be here in this room, spending time together, learning together. And God, I am so thankful about this message, this idea that we can break the mold, that we can shine brighter than stars in the universe. That if only we don't complain and we don't argue. That if we look to understand, if we look to give solutions, that we can shine bright. And my prayer is for every person in this room that they would seek to shine bright, that they would seek to stop complaining sometimes when they can give solutions, when they are bright and they can give ideas. Or they wouldn't argue, that they would discuss, that they would come in with a cool head. So God, I thank you for this room, and I pray right now for the small group discussion that we're going to have. May you just bless that interaction. And it's in your awesome and powerful name that we pray. Amen. All right. You guys are dismissed to small groups.